Today, guys, we're talking about 7-string guitars. And if you guys have been around on my channel and have noticed, I tend to play a lot of 7-strings when I'm doing gear demos or I'm doing maybe some of the covers. But my 6-string guitars, I mainly use for covers. I don't really use them for anything else unless I'm trying to practice like particular phrasing in a certain song. I do love my 7-string guitars. If you've watched my gear review, or not gear review, but my like guitar collection from 2023, you'll notice that there's a lot of 7-strings and not a lot of 6-strings, or even less bass guitars. And that's because I feel like 7-strings fit my hand a lot better. I feel like 7-strings fit my hand, fit my fingers. I feel like I do have like a little bit bigger of a hand and bigger of fingers, where 7-strings are kind of like the easy basics for me. 8-strings for me get a little weird to know I still do want an 8-string. I want to get one eventually, but I feel like 7-string guitars are where it's kind of at for me. Like I said, they fit my hand better. I feel like the string spacing is wider, especially to accommodate my hand. So that really works out well right there. And then on top of that too, you get that low end. I don't really like the fact of tuning a 6-string guitar lower than A sharp. I feel like the A sharp is the lowest I go with 6-string guitars. So that's when, after A sharp, that's when I start to use 7-strings. 7-strings, I go down to drop F. And then after drop F, unless like a song is in a 7-string drop E tuning, that's when I'll start looking at like 8-strings and things like that. Unless like a band is playing a song on a 7-string, either in drop E, or you can play the song in on 7-strings with like a B, low B. There's a lot of bands that do it. I think Animals as Leaders has said that they have plenty of songs that you can just play on a standard 7-string. You don't really need the low E 90% of the time. So that's kind of the little basis on why I use more 7-strings rather than 6-strings. Plus, I feel like it's weird because I feel like there's more options. 6-strings, I always feel like it's like the same thing, like time and time and time again, which like by all means, if that's what you want to use and that's what you're going for, they're not really trying to like do a lot of new things on 6-strings because let's be honest, it's tried and true, and why try and mess with it? Like it's very hard to find a decent multi-scale 6-string. And I'm not talking about like super cheap ones or like really expensive ones, right? Where we're like 7-strings, I feel like there is a there's a good middle ground. Like you can find some decently cheap, like, and not to say even cheap, but you can find some decently priced 7-strings from the big brands like Schecter, ESP Ltd, or not them so much, but like Schecter, Ibanez, Jackson has them. If you go on like Guitar Center's used website, I'm pretty sure you can find multi-scale 7 and 8-strings all day. So with like that in mind, I am a huge fan of 7-strings, especially multi-scale 7-strings. And I'll show you guys a couple right now. So first, you guys know, you've seen this guitar around. This is my slanted fret Ibanez headless. It's the QX model. I absolutely love this guitar. This is one of the first guitars I pick up every day, just because this one is light. You can toss it around, you can just let it sit on your lap, it's not going anywhere, and it plays well. I do have to put a lighter string gauge on here. I like 10 to 56, and I think this has like 10 to 62s on it, or like 10 to 59s, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I tend to use lighter string gauges, so I do have to restring this one. But this is my Ibanez QX 7-string. That this is like the first guitar I pick up, especially if I need something in E standard. This is the guitar I go to. It's got slanted frets. I do like slanted frets. I do like multi-scale frets. It's got basically everything you need on this. And I know there's a lot of hate for some reason on headless guitars, but this guitar plays flawlessly, and I couldn't imagine not having this guitar now that I have it. It's somewhere between an S and like those AZ models. Super thin body, everything's really solid, so I enjoy this guitar. I'll show you some other multi-scales. This is my Schecter multi-scale Reaper 7-string. I love this guitar. Like I said, multi-scale. It goes from 25 and a half on the high string to 27 inches on the low string. It is quite a bit heavier because this is like a full mahogany body, and I think Wenge neck. Very heavier guitar, so I tend to pick this one up a little less than that Ibanez, but still overall solid guitar that I still love to this day. So this is a straight scale guitar I have. This is a Ernie Ball Music Man Majesty 7. I love this guitar. This is one of the not first 7 strings I got. My first serious 7 string was my Music Man JP12 BFR. I absolutely love that guitar. I love this guitar too. I use this in drop G with 11 to 58s on there. But honestly, things I would look for in a solid 7 string, price not included or whatever. For me, I love locking tuners. This has locking tuners. My Schecter has locking tuners. The Ibanez doesn't, but that's because it's a headless. But that thing like never goes out of tune. I've never had a problem picking that up and not being in tune. My JP has locking tuners. I would do locking tuners. If you need a trem or not, that's up to you. Things I would look for in a 7-string guitar would be, does it fit what I need it to do? Some of the cheaper ones, the pickups don't sound as good, things like that, yada, yada. But if it's the extended scale that you need and things like that, I would rock with it. And just change out what you don't want in it. But at the same point in time, if it's your first 7-string, I will say if you're getting into the realm of 7-string guitars, my question is why? For me, it was I like the lower tunings. I like having a standard guitar and then plus a little bit more. A lot of my favorite bands and musicians use 7-string. You guys have heard me talk a million fucking times before, but Jason Richardson is one of my favorite guitarists. I've met him on multiple occasions, taken lessons from him, love him. Things like that. So like I love Born of Osiris. They use 7 strings for a lot of their stuff, but they also use a lot of 6 strings. The Discovery is my favorite album, and that was all on 7 strings. So I couldn't imagine not having a 7-string guitar. Aaron Marshall from Intervals plays 6s and 7s. I'm a huge fan of 7 strings. There's not a reason for me not to have one besides just the fact that I don't know. There's really not. So Spirit Box is another one. Mike Stringer, I've met him a couple times. Love the fact that 7 strings there. I do have a Schecter that is tuned down to drop F, not drop F sharp. So I use that one quite a bit when I'm trying to dig in and get like chunkier tones. So I do have multiple 7 strings in multiple different tunings that I love. Like I was trying to say is that if you're looking for your first 7 string, I would say ask yourself why. What do you need it for? What bands do you listen to? What are you trying to learn? What's the purpose of it? I will say drawbacks, especially when someone was coming straight from a 6, little bit bigger of a neck. You have that low string. I know there's certain bands, like if you ever watch Like Moss to Flames, they will use the 7 string as a 6 with an extra high string on it to kind of get more of the octaves and stuff like that. So that's definitely a cool use for it. I know like Deftones, they moved on to 8 strings, but they have that droning note a lot of the times. So kind of pick something that's going to work for your playing style. And just make sure it has what you need when you move into a 7 string. I will say the jump is not that difficult. You just need to keep at it. Something that I've always done with 7 strings is find a song that you really like and you really want to listen to and that you really want to play and kind of develop a skill from that. Especially if it's your first time using a 7 string and you're trying to develop a new type of, learning pattern on a 7, because I will say it does get weird for a little bit. I still have difficulties when I try and play 8 strings just because it's a lot bigger of a neck. There's 2 more strings and I'm used to 7s, but for some reason the 8 string messes me up. So I definitely get where people come from of the whole, well, we're going to see how the 8 string is or 7 string. Don't be intimidated. It's just 1 more string. Arpeggios and stuff like that don't change very much. You got to think, you're B to B with a high E. If you're keeping it in standard tuning, if you're putting it in drop tuning, you have a 6 string guitar below it. play with a 6 string and use the low string for like accents and chugs. You don't have to, you don't have to reinvent the wheel with a 7 string just because you have one. Guys, if you like this video and this little quick overview on 7 string guitars, leave a comment down below. Let me know what your thought on 7 strings is. Let me know in the comments below how you play them, what kind of music you play. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out some other videos. Have a good one, guys.